Hello! Today we will start lesson 2.5 and we will begin working on Introduction to Problem Solving. This homework assignment will have 10 problems, and today we will work 3 example problems that go along with these 10 problems. Let's begin our first example. Example 1 is twice the difference of a number and 9 is equal to 3 times the sum of the number and 3. At this point, you should probably pause this video and write this down word for word. Okay, the strategy we're going to use on this is pretty simple. It's how you would translate anything. So think of if you're translating a sentence from English to Spanish or Spanish to English. What you would do is you would go through word for word and you would find what it meant in the other language. Well, that's essentially what we're going to do here. And if you do take it word for word and not look at the entire sentence as one big long thing, it will be a much easier process. So let's jump right in here and let's begin. Hopefully you do have this written down. So let's just go with the first word. First word is twice, and that means 2. It actually means 2 times. So 2 times what? Well, let's look at the next thing. It says the difference of. Now, the difference of, and if we want to fast forward to the end of this, and I don't recommend this, but let's take a quick glance down here to the sum of. Those can kind of be the trickiest things. So let's make a list on the left-hand side of our notes that kind of describes what the difference of and the sum of means. So here's our list. The sum of means addition. The difference of means subtraction. The product of means multiplication. And the quotient of means the answer to a division problem. So let's go back up to our original problem. Since this says twice the difference, that means twice the answer to a subtraction problem. And anytime you see any of these 4 phrases right here, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to throw in a set of parentheses. So we've got a set of parentheses right here. And since this says the difference, that means we're going to have a subtraction problem. So there we go. So the next thing we need to do is we need to find out what we're going to subtract. So twice the difference of a number. Well, a number means x because we don't know what the number is. It could be 2, could be 17, could be negative 1/2. So we just put x there. And 9. 9 might be the easiest thing in this problem to translate. There we go. And we're good. We've got the left-hand side of this equation finished. How do I know? It's because of that word right there, is. Is means equals. So we'll underline this is in black, and we'll throw an equal sign, and we're ready to go on to the right-hand side of the problem. And actually, this one actually says is equal to. So let's continue. So on this other side of the problem, we will go ahead and we will say 3 times, there's our 3, the sum of, again, there's that phrase again, the sum of. When you see the sum of, the difference of, product of, quotient of, that means you're going to have parentheses. So 3 times the sum of, and what symbol do we put in the middle of this? If you said addition, then you're right, because sum means addition. There we go. 3 times the sum of the number. So what's the number? Well, the number's x. So we'll throw our x in there. And last, but certainly not least, and 3. One last piece of advice before you move on to example 2. Go slow. Go word by word. Watch out for these 4 phrases down here, and you should be good. Now, at this point, I would recommend to pause the video. You should be able to take what you just learned, and you should be able to go to homework problems numbers 1 through 2, and you should be able to do these now. So I would pause the video, go work homework problems 1 and 2, and then come back to the video and we'll work a few more problems. Okay, let's move on to example 2. This is another word problem like all the problems will be today. Let's read through this one real quick. Apollo's basketball arena holds 365 more people than DC's basketball arena. If the combined capacity for both arenas is 3,135, find the capacity of each arena. So let's begin. In most of these problems, you're going to be comparing one thing to another, and it's important that right off the bat you realize what you're comparing. In this problem, it's not too hard. We're comparing Apollo's arena, so we'll call that AHS, to Davis County's arena. We'll go DC there. That's what we're comparing. So let's look at this. It says Apollo's basketball arena holds 365 more people than DC's basketball arena. Well, if we know how much DC's holds, then we could just add 365 to it because ours is more than DC. So if we scan the problem, we'll realize they don't tell us how much Davis County's basketball arena holds. Well, in math, when you're looking for a number and you don't have it, we use a variable. So for DC's basketball arena, since we don't know what it is, let's use a lowercase d. We just don't know. But what we do know is that our arena, Apollo's arena, holds 365 more than DC's. Well, we don't know DC's, but we're using D as a variable. So there we go. We've determined the two things we're comparing, Apollo's and Davis County. We gave Davis County a variable of D because we didn't know it, and then we added 365 to D because ours holds more than Davis County's. Now, let's move on to this problem. It's saying the combined capacity. So if we put them both together, the arenas together will hold 3,135 people. Well, I understand that we don't have a lot of numbers here. I mean, we're still kind of missing them, but we can still put them together. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's put them together. Let's go Apollo's. Apollo's is 365 plus D. Davis County's is D. And if we put them together, it equals 3,165. There we go. Now we have a problem that looks like many of the problems we've solved the last few days. We've got like terms. I know many of you like to put a coefficient with these D's, so D and D will give us 2D. We'll drop down our 365. We've got 3,165 on this side. Let's move this first, minus 365. Just a refresher, we subtract because it's a positive 365, so we'll go minus 365. And we are left with 2,800. We'll drop down our 2D. This is a multiplication problem, so we'll divide by 2. We've got D equals 1,400. So we just found out that D, Davis County's arena, holds 1,400 people. Now, if we go to the original problem, it tells us that our arena, Apollo's arena, holds 365 more than that. So we can go over here and we can go 365 plus Davis County's, which we just learned has 1,400. And now we know that ours, if we add them together, holds 1,765. And to check it, if we put these two numbers together, we will get 3,135. So to recap, to give you kind of the hints of this, the key thing on any problem where you're comparing two things is to identify the two things that you're comparing. Find out which one requires the variable and go from there. If you want to pause the video now, you should be able to go to your homework and be able to complete homework's problems 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8. So basically, you should be able to complete 3 through 8 and skip number 6. The next slide will show you how to do homework problem 6. Okay, our third and final example. This example has to do with consecutive integers, which you can see right here. So we'll kind of call this the consecutive integer problem. I believe you have one or two of these on your homework assignments, so let's go ahead and talk about this one. This one corresponds to homework problem number 6. So the problem says the number of medals won by athletes at DC, Owensboro, and Apollo are 3 consecutive integers whose sum is 63. Find the number of medals won by each school. So, again, the strategy I think you should use, and we did it last problem, is to identify each individual part. So the parts we have right here are DC, we have Owensboro, and we have Apollo. Those are the 3 things that we're talking about. So we don't know how many medals any of these schools won. Not any of them. But what we do know is that they're 3 consecutive integers. Consecutive mean they're back to back to back. So since Davis County came first in the problem, it means that their number came first. So we don't know. So we're going to say D. We don't know how many medals Davis County won. So we're just going to say D. We also don't know how many medals that Owensboro won, but what we do know is that they won one more than Davis County because these numbers are in a row. So if Davis County won D, it's fair to say that Owensboro won D plus 1. We can say that because Owensboro won one more than Davis County. Again, we don't know how many Apollo won, but since they're consecutive, that means they're right in a row. So if Davis County won D and Owensboro won D plus 1, then that means that Apollo won D plus 2. It means we won 2 more than DC and we won 1 more than Owensboro. So this gives us an idea of how many each team won. So now it comes down to solving this. We know if you take all of the medals won by all 3 schools, they add up to 63. Sum means addition, so they add up to equal 63. So what we can say is we can go D. So we can go D plus D plus 1 plus D plus 2 equals 63. We've got like terms here. Again, I think it's important. I think it's useful to throw coefficients in front of these D's. So D plus D plus D is 3D plus 3 equals 63. So let's solve this equation. We'll go minus 3, minus 3. We've got 3D equals 60. Divide by 3, divide by 3. D equals 20. So we just found out that Davis County won 20. So if DC won 20, that means Owensboro won 21 and Apollo 122. And if you add those all together, you get 63 medals. That's how you do a consecutive integer problem. You should now be ready to complete homework problem 6. And that brings us to the end of our notes. These problems can get a little confusing. My last piece of advice is to go slow, take your time, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to raise your hand and ask your teacher.